Hello, this is Michael. I'm the founder of StutterMind. I am a lifelong severe stutterer who now speaks fluently. In this video, the history of stuttering, I will briefly touch on the quite unremarkable history of stuttering. It is amazing the lack of knowledge and understanding and advancement in this space over the centuries. Even today, it's still amazing how little people know about stuttering. We know more about cancer and surviving cancer than we do about stuttering and becoming a fluent speaker. And we're going to change that history. We're going to turn the page on it and look to the future. But briefly, let's look back at the history of stuttering. So we know that stuttering has been going on as long as there's been speech and language. So basically forever, right? Any large social group, 1% of that group will stutter. There are some that have looked at the Old Testament and they've interpreted to believe that Moses was a stutterer. 2000 BC, the Egyptians, they had a word for stuttering. The word is nitit, which means speaking earthquake, which is a great way of explaining what it might sound like if someone is stuttering. For centuries, it was believed that it's the tongue causing the culprit for speech disfluency. That is not the case. We know that now, but for centuries it was believed it is our tongues. In the 18th and 19th centuries, some doctors actually performed surgical procedures on the mouths of people who stutter, cut the tongue, the nerves in the mouth, trying to free up the tongue, allowing more fluent speech. That did not work. Some people bled to death and died, and we now know that the tongue is not the culprit, but for centuries it was believed that it's physical, it's our tongues. Later in the 19th century, some believed that the facial expressions and the grimaces and the contortions that stutterers make, that's the cause of our stutter. It's the facial lack of control of our muscles or the contraction of the muscles. We now know that's not the case either. That's a result of stuttering. It's not the cause of stuttering. We look at the history of art. Stutterers are depicted in art. They're depicted with an oversized tongue, often wearing oversized spectacles, suggesting that they're nearsighted. There is no tie to sight and our speech, and that is incorrect. We know that. But it just goes to show, for centuries in history, it's believed, or it's been believed, that stuttering is a result of our tongues and something physical, and that's just not true. It's amazing how many centuries have gone by and there's really been no advancement and no better understanding for why we stutter and a path to speech fluency. There's been many people who are famous who have stuttered. 1936, King George VI rose to the throne, and he was a stutterer. You may have seen the movie King's Speech. It chronicles his speech therapy sessions and trying to overcome and manage his stutter. It does go to show that there is still very little knowledge about why people stutter, and you'll see that in that movie as well. Other famous people, our current US President, Joe Biden, has struggled with speech fluency through his whole life. Famous athletes like Bo Jackson, singers like Mel Tillis, he's a famous country singer, are all famous people who stutter. I'd suggest that there should be more famous people that stutter, but people who stutter tend to shy away from social situations and places where you have to speak, and we don't often reach our full potential as a result of that, which is really, really unfortunate. People who stutter through their school-age years often are harassed and ridiculed and embarrassed by their peers and even sometimes by their teachers due to the lack of understanding for why people stutter. It can be difficult for people who stutter to form relationships, social friendships, romantic relationships. We tend to avoid speaking situations, and it makes it more difficult. And there is a general perception that people that stutter might be unattractive, and it's a trait that's not all that endearing, and it makes it all that more difficult to get ahead if you are a stutterer. A survey was done that 2/3 of stutterers believed that their capabilities had been misjudged by their boss or their employer. I fully empathize. I've been there, done that, 30-year career, and had to fight through the fact that I was a severe stutterer, and I was often looked at as someone who is not fully capable, not a strong leader, because I stuttered, and those things are not true, but things that we'll have to overcome. Almost 30% of people who stutter believe they have been overlooked for a job promotion because of their speech. That's me as well. I've even not applied for jobs or backed out of interviews because of my speech, so I avoided some roles, and certainly I've been overlooked for roles as a result of my severe stutter as well. Things have gotten a little bit better in terms of awareness. In 1988, the U.S. Congress passed a resolution declaring the second week in May as Stuttering Awareness Week, which is great. And the International Stuttering Awareness Day is in October. This has helped raise the visibility of stuttering, but there's still a lot of popular misconceptions of stuttering. The portrayals of people who stutter in movies and TV is not always very flattering as well. People generally believe that a stutterer has low self-esteem, they're nervous, they have anxiety, and that's the reason why they stutter. That is not the reason why the 1% of us who stutter. It's not because of that. We may end up with low self-esteem. We may end up with anxiety as a result of our stutter. It's not the cause of our stutter. Even mainstream speech pathologists and academics don't fully understand why we stutter, and most do not offer a path to speech fluency. There's a large push for acceptance. Accept who you are and embrace it, and it's okay, which is fine. But there's also a path to fluency that's available to you. And at StutterMind, we will show you that path to fluency. So the history has been bleak. We've made very little progress. Even today, it's amazing how little is known about the brain and how it works and why we stutter. At StutterMind, we have got a breakthrough methodology and tools that can help you with your path to speech fluency, and you can speak fluent just like me. So sign up, become a member, learn the tools and methods, and become a fluent speaker like me.